Fine face. Good face. Fine face. Good face. Fine face. And it gets your face like warmed up.
Super serious.
Where nothing fun or funny ever happens.
This is a super serious thing.
I don't even like dogs.
Super serious.
All right, hello, and welcome back to another episode of Super Serious Dog Podcast.
Super serious. Super serious.
It's a super serious dog podcast about super serious topics, like dog farts, and not dog farts. And sometimes we talk about serious things.
Like puppy mills.
Ooh, yeah, that is serious. That's a real serious topic. Today, we have some questions that we want to ask ourselves. So, Courtney, I'm going to start off and ask you first.
What's up?
Courtney,
What you got?
what is a skill or skills that you had before becoming a dog trainer that helps you now when training dogs?
Well, that's a good one. So before becoming a dog trainer, I was a bartender and a waitress for many, many years. So I did a lot of getting whatever people needed done and doing it quickly. But as a bartender, I learned how to kind of manage people. Because when you're behind a bar and it's busy and there's like, all you can see is like a sea of people's faces and they all want something to drink and they want it from you. And so they're staring at you. And I learned how to be very direct with people and be like, what do you want? And kind of filter out everything else that's going on. And that really came in handy when you're in a lesson with a client and their kids are running around and their dog is chasing the kids and it's just very chaotic. Being able to be calm and be like, here's what we're doing. Here's step 1, 2, 3. Here we go. We can do this. We can handle this. You're going to do it. You're going to stand up right now. You're going to go over to the dog. You're going to put it back on place, and just being very direct in my communication with people when it was necessary. Sometimes in social situations, I can be more of a soft-spoken, indirect, casual person. But I feel like in interactions with clients, that bartender skill really turned on for me. And I was really happy to have that skill when I started doing one-on-ones with clients and stuff like that.
That's cool. Yeah. I'm sure that's helpful for group classes too. And like
definitely,
those situations.
Definitely. I think it made group classes really fun. It also, being in that bartending environment, waitress environment, it made my situational awareness very good to where I could be looking at something going on over here, but still aware of what was going on over there. Because, when you're in the weeds as a waitress, you're running around doing 50 million things at one time. And you're remembering that guy has a Diet Coke and that one has an unsweet tea. And also your food is up, but you need to put this other order in. And you're just going all the different ways. So you're just aware of everything going on. And that comes in handy for so many reasons in dog training.
Yeah. You got to manage leashes. You got to manage dogs individually, tools, etc. Kids running across the park. Oh, that dog doesn't like bikes. So we got to be conscious of that bike coming. Is it coming close to us? No, it's fine. Yeah, totally. That's cool.
Also, going into people's homes, situational awareness is something you definitely want to have so that you are safe.
Yeah.
Because some people are weird.
Yep.
Not safe people.
Yes, that's very true.
Have you ever had unsafe feeling at a lesson?
Only in terms of like a dog that made me feel uncomfortable, but never in terms of like people making me feel uncomfortable or unsafe or anything like that. I've been fortunate enough, even though I've been in like thousands of people's homes at this point. But no. I will say I have been in uncomfortable situations where like clearly two people are fighting in the same household and then you kind of show up in the middle of it but that's different. That's not a threat to my personal safety. That's just awkward.
Right. I only had one weird one and it was a single guy and it only got uncomfortable because he started asking me if it ever got uncomfortable going into people's houses. And the way he was asking was very strange. And I was just like, well,
why are you asking that?
Was it because of the implication?
Yeah, it was the implication. And I wrapped that lesson up pretty quickly. I was like, okay, and then your homework is, and I got to go because you just always got to be aware.
Yeah, for sure.
Did you pick up any skills in your accounting life that came
Oh,
in
yeah.
handy
Actually,
with dogs?
a ton. Yeah. Especially just like a certain level of professionalism, right? Like there's a lot of like, I've hired dog trainers before in the past. Before I was a dog trainer, I hired a dog trainer. And I've actually hired a cat behaviorist before for my cats. And, you know, like people try, but there's just certain things that's like, it's not imbued in them, right? Like they're doing it because they read that they should do it. It's not like I've decided to make this part of my aura and my business model. And not that everybody has to be wearing like, you know, a collared shirt and a tie and, you know, be super like, you know, hoity-toity or whatever. But professionalism, right? So kind of like you were talking about the situational awareness and stuff. And like, I had to talk to clients sometimes and part of business school, you're interviewing with like Fortune 500 companies, and there's several rounds of it, and you're competing with people, and there's dinners that you go to with all the other candidates and all the, you know, potential people you might work with. And so how do you impress these people over a, you know, 3-course meal or whatever, and stand out? But also, how do you seem relaxed and like you're not too needy or anything like that? So I got a big dose of that. And so I think that was something that carried me really, really well when I did want to become a trainer, but I was still new and I didn't have all the skills yet, is that it's not necessarily fake it till you make it. I was professional. I did know stuff.
But you knew how to present yourself also and say, here is everything great about me. Look, check all this out.
Yes. Or if a client asked me a question that I didn't know, I already had the skills to like deflect without sounding incompetent or anything like that, right? Because there's going to be times where people stump you. And like now I'm comfortable enough to where I'm like, I will genuinely sometimes say, I have no clue what the answer to that is, but I have a ton of colleagues and dog trainer friends all across the world, mostly the country, but also the world. Like, let me just go ask them and see, because they're more of an expert in that specific field. Or maybe they have even more experience with that breed than I do. And like, I have limited experience. So, you know, so yeah, I'd say my professionalism.
Awesome. I always admire that when a trainer or anybody in any field can admit that they may not know everything about one subject and professionally refer you to someone who might, or get that information for you and bring it to you, go that extra mile for you. You know what I mean?
Because
I
lying
really
isn't going to serve you. People are going to know that you're lying either because they can smell it or because like
it doesn't work.
It'll come out somehow in the end, right? Like it's you can't sustain that. It's not sustainable.
Right. So. Yeah. Do you have any skills that you've learned since being a dog trainer? Like that you acquired as a dog trainer that you're like, this is an awesome skill that I have now that I'm going to use no matter what I do for the rest of my life?
Yes. Lots and lots. I'd say I want to tell you about 2 of them.
Okay.
So one, funny enough, hand-eye coordination, hands down.
Really?
I used to be the most uncoordinated person ever. And then when I started working at Austin Pets Alive, like I used to be the type of person that would sprain my ankle numerous times a year, like over and over. I was clumsy. I would trip. I couldn't catch anything. Like maybe if it was like tossed at me really well, I could catch a ball or something like that. But generally speaking, very uncoordinated. On a bike, however, I was pretty uncoordinated. But you know, like when you're dealing,
super jealous of that.
I don't know, man. Bikes are just natural. I used to ride my bike all the time when I was a kid, so I think that's why. But yeah, like when you have super reactive dogs, sometimes that have, you know, are 40 pounds heavier than you are, and they're throwing you around and they're stressed out, and there's dogs everywhere yelling at them, and the floor is slippery because it's wet, and it's uneven because there's gravel or there's a stump for a tree that they had to cut down. You get pretty damn coordinated. Tossing kennel keys, I got really good at, because you can't, like if you have a dog and somebody else has a dog, you can't go greet on leash. In that type of environment, it's usually not a good idea. So I got pretty good at that. And then the other thing I would say is the spatial awareness type sort of stuff that you were talking about. I'm super ADD, And,
No way.
being
No.
spatially aware.
I hadn't noticed ever.
that can be kind of hard because I'll, tune out or whatever.
That sounds super serious.
So serious.
Super ADD.
Super duper ADD. So yeah. What about have you learned anything, or I guess a better question is, are you working on anything right now, Courtney?
Yes, I'm working on a couple things, for myself and for my dog training career. I'm always working on myself. It's self-improvement and self-care.
Self-care.
But with my dogs, I'd say I'm working on making sure they get individual time with me and their individual skill sets.
It looks like there's a board behind you.
Yes, that's actually what that board is each of my dogs and each of the things I'm working on with them.
That's cool.
Yeah. With my clients, or my future clients, what I hope to bring to my future clients is the ability to reflect on themselves and their relationship with their dog and kind of self-critique and read into it themselves so that they can have that skill set to take on with them for the rest of their lives and every relationship they have with a dog, so trying to figure out how to teach critical thinking, basically.
Yeah. And it's funny too, because a lot of people, a lot of our clients that we see have that skill. They do it all the time in different areas, whether it's professionally or in their home or with their children or whatever. Right. And yet you put the dog in front of them and they're just their eyes glaze over and they're like, I don't know what's happening. And I'm like, well, what do you see? And they're just so afraid to just talk about it because they don't know what's going to be the right answer. And it's not about the right answer. The right answer is, what do you see? And what do you think that means? And why do you think that's important, or whatever, right? Whatever the situation may present.
Mm-hmm.
So I think that's
I want people to want to understand their dogs more.
Yeah.
Does that make sense?
Yes.
So that's what I'm trying to inspire in people, is the want to understand your dog, to realize that your dog is this complex, fascinating creature that you've brought into your house, and your relationship could reach so many levels that you never even knew were possible.
Yeah.
It's pretty grandiose, but that's my thing.
That's really cool.
I want to do.
I've been working on specifically a training thing for my dogs is my shaping, teaching how to shape. So for those of you who don't know what shaping is, there's kind of two ways
Are you talking about free shaping?
Yes. Yeah. Free shaping. Yeah. So for those of you who don't know, there's kind of two ways to teach a dog a skill set. So let's say you're trying to teach a trick. One way is luring, where you literally lure the dog like a fishing lure, and you kind of guide them physically and you make them kind of follow the treat or whatever until they do the thing that you want, and then you release the treat, and that's how they learn the skill. Shaping, on the other hand, is, to overly simplify it, is wait for them to do the thing that you want. So let's say it's sit. You just sit there being boring as heck and doing nothing, and as soon as they sit, you tell them good boy or good girl or whatever, and you give them the treat. So then they start to go, I see. Okay. When I put my butt down, that's what the treat's for. So I've been trying to work on shaping more. It's a fairly new skill set for me. It's something that I've only done in random little snippets here and there. And it's something that I've been incorporating a ton since last September. So, and honestly, sometimes my clients will come back and tell me oh my God, so I was practicing the stuff you showed me, Misha, and my dog did this. And in my head, I'm like, holy shit, it's working. It's working. I know it's going to work theoretically, right? I see tons of people who do it. I have tons of friends who share their videos, or, I've been to classes on it. I've read books. So I know it works, but still sometimes you actually see it come to fruition. You're like, oh shit.
It's always exciting. That happens to me anytime I teach a dog anything. Still, I'm like, oh, you did it. This is the thing that I taught him. We had communication. We had those lines going, and we came to a common idea. That's beautiful.
Yeah. Yep. I think it's really cool, the concept of shaping, because it is so open-ended and like it's pretty boring, and that's pretty important for me. Like I've always just been like, go, 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 do. It's that whole ADD thing, I guess. Make the dog do the thing. And this has taught me to be a lot more patient and kind of see the value in that. And I really, really like how much stronger the dog understands the concept and remembers it. Even if you go back, like let's say you shaped something for like you spent a day on it, and then a week later you come back, the dog remembers it a lot better than if you did the luring. It's incredible because it
was their idea. They came up with it.
Yes.
Like a little catchphrase I used to tell clients all the time was like, dogs are always going to remember things that they thought was their idea more than the thing you told them to do.
Mm-hmm.
And if you think about it, humans are kind of the same way, right? If you come up with your own idea, you're really excited about it. But if someone told you that idea, you'd be like, that's probably a pretty cool idea. But you're not as excited as if you would have come up with the idea yourself.
Yes, exactly. And I guess that's part of the fun things about our job as trainers is that we're not just training the dogs, we're training the people too, right?
Mm-hmm.
No matter what, even if you do a board train, you still have to teach the people stuff because there's a reason that the dog was doing whatever it was doing or not doing whatever it wasn't doing. And so being able to have that like trifecta and like applying those skills, that's another thing too that I've always been consciously thinking of that I could do better at is applying the same concepts that I do with dogs to my clients, to the people. Because a lot of times, because we can speak English to each other, it's easy for me just like, here, just tell you what to do and go and rescue them if they're struggling and all that. So you just got to sit back and be like,
right. That's what I'm trying to adapt more of I understand you're being more empathetic. I understand you're struggling and that is hard. What can we do to problem solve here?
So hard.
Here's a couple things to play off of.
Yeah.
Now, what do you think we should do? And letting them come up with the idea themselves. I mean, obviously I'm going to help people that need help, but the way I go about it is evolving through my dog training career.
Yeah. One thing that I like to do too is try to get people to see even like the chore aspects of training as more fun, right? So make it a game in some way. Like you have to go put your dog on place and maybe that seems like the most useless and most boring skill and like you don't understand why you have to do it. Your trainer asked you to do it for a reason. There's a very specific reason and hopefully they explain that to you. But even if it is a chore, make it fun. Like give yourself a cookie at the end. I don't know. Like, find a
way to make it rewarding for you.
Yeah, exactly. And that's something that I feel like is really hard, like to explain to people, like, look, we're humans too. We trainers are humans too. We're not wizards or magicians or anything like that.
Yeah.
We make
I say that probably every lesson. I'm a human too. I mess up. I forget. I don't feel like training sometimes.
Yep. But you still do it at the end of the day. And honestly, the only thing that we are better at is discerning patterns and fixing whatever we need to fix, regardless of the obstacles that may present themselves. Because we know there is a solution, whereas a lot of people feel like there's just no solution. Like there's so many times where people like on Facebook groups, right? I see people like, oh, I tried this one thing and then that's it. They're like, I need to rehome the dog. And I'm like, there's like 30 other things you could potentially do. And sometimes even if it's not 30, maybe there's 2 other things. And
right. Sometimes you have to reverse engineer the problem and figure out a new way to approach it and come up with it. That's the creativity part I love about what we do is reverse engineering and starting at the other end of a problem and maybe, making the problem a little worse temporarily because in my plan, it's going to make it better in the long run,
Right.
That was a lovely dog mug I saw. Can you hold up that coffee again? What was that?
Dog lover.
It's also delicious coffee. So
yeah. Well, I think that's it for our show today. Thank you guys so much for tuning in. We really appreciate the support and viewership. If you guys want to support us further, please check out our Patreon. You can go to patreon.com/Super Serious Dog Podcast.
And tell your friends.
Tell your friends, yes. And also, if you are interested in us answering some of your questions, whether they're serious or funny and goofy, just dog related stuff, you can email them to superseriousdogpodcast@gmail.com. Thanks again for tuning in, and we'll see you all next week. And scene.
Done.
I got my sword. I was going to pull out my sword. I was going to make a joke about how, like, my skills I bring to dog training is sword skills.